All right, guys, welcome to Aussies Taking Over the NBA, episode 14. This is a bit of a pre-draft wrap of all the Aussie potential, all the NCAA and high school opportunities, and guys who have declared for the draft this year. First of all, give us a shout out on Twitter at
NBA Takeover.
NBA Takeover. You can find us on SoundCloud at NBA Takeover as well. And we're on Podcast Addict, iTunes, same thing, NBA Takeover. And if you're at work, you can listen to us on YouTube as well. We've got all our videos are up on YouTube. So we'll get cracking into it. We've got a few guys to talk about today. First one we're going to talk about, probably the most promising second round prospect here would be Mater. He's come straight out of high school in Canada. So he's actually skipped the whole college system altogether. And he's completed a few preseason workouts.
Yeah, pre-draft workouts.
Pre-draft workouts for Minnesota, the Lakers, and also the Cavs.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting because you don't know what's going to happen to them next year at all. We're going to go to highlights reel and talk you through a bit of his what he's about. He's very, very similar to his brother. Long, skinny dude, wing. Probably slightly less skilled than his brother, but that's only because Thon's been in the NBA for a couple of years. But very, very similar. Long levers.
Yeah, looks like he's got a decent shot. Good shot blocker. He probably needs to put on a few kilos as well.
Yeah, that's not a traditional center. I would say power forward going into a guard.
I think if he fills out a little bit, he could start off playing as a power forward and then sort of move into the center. He's got good footwork, it looks like, for a big man. A nice sort of shot coming across the lane. Yeah, a couple of big highlight dunks over some young guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
young, college. He hasn't gone through the college system, so you got to think, is someone going to do the old pick and dump, potentially pick him up and dump him off in Europe for a couple of years with an NBA opt-out, or even in Australia?
He's only 20, so he's just come straight out of high school. And having his brother there, Thon Maker in Milwaukee, that's always a good sort of connection to have.
Yeah.
A bit of a base to have your brother already playing in the NBA. So I'd be interested to see if he does actually get drafted, probably in the second round.
Well, a few of the ESPN pundits have put him late second round pick. We'll go to the teams. What's Minnesota's pick number?
So in the second round, Minnesota. I cannot see. Oh, here we go. 48.
So they got one pick at 48.
They got number 20 in the first round. I mean, I couldn't see them drafting 20.
No. They won't draft in first round.
They've got Devontae Graham down on the mock draft, a point guard, so that'd be pretty interesting. I think they're probably in for some guards, Minnesota, after their run. They've got Jeff Teague playing point guard, and Andrew Wiggins was playing a little bit of small forward and shooting guard, so I can see him being a fit there, sort of playing more guard rather than small forward.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy Butler, whether he sort of returns, they got Karl Anthony Towns to sort out as a center. So I could see a very late draft at 48 maybe.
Yeah. Lakers got a few more picks quite late in they got 47.
Yeah, that's another. Yeah, so the one before that. They've got Javon Carter, point guard, and they've got 25. Obviously, that's too early.
Yeah, I definitely say late second round pick.
I think they're in for a center as well anyway, because they've got Brook Lopez. They just kind of lost Larry Nance Jr. to Cleveland as well. So, I could see them. I could see Mater sort of fitting in there, but he's more of a in 2 or 3 years type of player. He's not.
It's very reasonable for them to dump him in G League for a couple of years as well. Obviously, that's why they do the pre-draft workout, see if he's worth cooking a few years in the G League.
Yeah. The Cavs.
the Cavs could have a lot going on differently next year. The Cavs got a first round pick, but
just the number 8 pick. I mean, I can't see them drafting.
No. No. But again, it could be a summer league signing or a training contract. That's what they might be getting him in for. I mean, a lot of these guys will get signed non-drafted as well.
Yeah, they could get picked up undrafted on 2-way deal and something like that, sent to the G League. I don't know if he's ready yet. I don't know. Usually they sort of reserve that for the guys who fall all the way through and are ready in general.
Yeah.
But I still think he looks athletically probably a couple of years away,
He's
maybe a little bit more.
91 kilos for 6'9" is not big enough.
Yeah, he looks very sort of very leggy as well. But he's quite skilled. If he can fill out, I could see him sort of going sort of the same way as his brother.
Yeah. The other prospect, probably our best second prospect, would be William McDowell-White.
Yeah. He's
been cooking in Europe for a couple of years and been playing extremely well in Europe. We'll get I know he's trained with the Nuggets.
Yeah. So the Nuggets and the Suns. And I think he was working out, I read today, I think with OKC.
OKC. See, he'd be good fit at OKC as a backup point to Westbrook. He wouldn't get many minutes, but I mean, he'd be learning a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
And Raymond Felton isn't getting any younger, so he would potentially be a good fit. Look, it gets to the rim quite well. I've watched his highlight reel. Really, really good for the under-19 Aussies. Scoring well in Europe.
What are they? They got 2 picks sort of really late. Second round, they got 53 and then 57. So, yeah, I could see him fitting in there. I don't think they even have a third sort of backup point guard.
They don't. They don't. One goes down, they'd have to sign probably a G Leaguer on a 2-way.
And then you've got to look at whether Paul George will stay. I don't think he's going to stay. It looks like Melo's going to stay. So, yeah, that could be an interesting pickup. They got projecting a shooting guard and another shooting guard for OKC.
Yeah, I would invest in a backup point guard because potentially Westbrook can play off the ball as well. And Raymond Felton isn't a spring chicken unless they're going to sign someone else. But yeah, the depth in that team is pretty woeful. Westbrook gets injured, it's season over. They're not.
Yeah, I don't think Felton's got the ability to sort of run, a second. He's got the ability to run a second unit, but not to step up it as a sort of first team guard and backup type of thing.
We'll go to his highlights reel. It's pretty impressive actually. If you want to go on YouTube and have a look at William McDowell-White's highlights reel, he's top one.
Yeah, crafty point guard. He looks quite heavy. Not heavy as in
he's 6'5",
big,
so
he's 6'5", nice and solid. So I wonder if athletically, sort of, maybe his body's ready to go. As opposed to someone like Matur Maker, where he's probably 2 or 3 years away from physical development wise, for being able to sort of withstand the NBA.
I think McDowell-White's probably the most ready. He's quick, excellent ball handling skills, sees the floor quite well as well.
Has he got a shot on him?
He's got a 3. I think he was shooting high 20s in Europe for 3, which is not great, but his stealing abilities, he picks the lane up really well, quickly too. Look, he's one of those things. He works out with an NBA team. So he's a good knockdown shooter.
Yeah.
Apparently, he hasn't got much of a mid-range game though. It's kind of 3 or get to the basket. Very similar to.
That's always something you can develop. I mean, it's those traditional skills as a point guard that, if you don't have the athletic ability, then you can't really develop. That sort of the pass first mentality or the ability to get to a spot and find an open guy or drive and kick and even score at the basket. So you can always sort of develop on that. defensively, I think he looks pretty good. Looks like he's got a pretty high IQ. Or recovering some dribbles. He looks like physically he could probably come straight into a team and be that third man, especially at a team like OKC.
Do a couple of years doing his time and potentially run a backup unit like Delhi, almost in that respect.
Yeah, I wonder where Nuggets have the 58th pick, so really low down there as well. The Nuggets have a pick. There's a lot of teams in there in that second round, but I wonder how many sort of American players really in the second round of the draft are going to kind of be picked up. I wonder where McDowell White would sit in the pantheon of guards that the US system sort of has.
For me, he's the only real team that he would fit in is OKC in terms of being a point guard, not really a knockdown shooter. He's not a shooting guard. So I don't see him. I see him getting picked up very late, or potentially getting a summer league deal somewhere.
Yeah,
as a bit of a. I mean, he'll be back in Europe next year. If not, he's much better than the Aussie league, or potentially a G League contract, which I don't know which would be better for him. I probably think staying in Europe rather than G League is something that would be a bit better.
Yeah,
waiting for his chance to get in potentially, because you could get a couple of years worth of woeful guards in the draft. And I think everyone's looking for that Ben Simmons at 6'10", but at 6'5", he's still pretty big. He's not a small dude, and quick across the floor.
And I mean, if you don't have the size, then you've obviously got to bring more tools to the table. You got to be able to shoot. You got to be able to get by and pass, or you got to be able to finish at the rim. And we're not really known for developing those sorts of talents. The ones that are great finishers and spectacular sort of highlight players. We're sort of more known for the Dellavedova type, sort of scrappy, a lot of hustle, a lot of ability to sort of just get in and make things happen rather than come up with highlight plays. So I think he could get drafted maybe by the Lakers. I mean, they might be in for a point guard. They got a pretty late pick. Dallas. I think they got Dennis Smith Jr. and I think they're going to sort of bank on Dennis Smith Jr. Detroit, maybe Washington, maybe they need another guard behind John Wall. But yeah, I think OKC's probably a pretty good fit for a backup point guard. And then we got Deng Adel as well as the other guy who's declared for the draft, and he's worked out for the Lakers and Minnesota as well.
People have got him kind of fringe, not really getting picked up in the draft. He looks pretty athletic. I think one of the things that let him down is a mid-range game and a long-range game. I think he's one of those guys that in college could bully his way around to the rim, but in the NBA he'll just kind of get boxed out, especially if you he's only 200 pounds at 6'7", so he's not heavy by any means and stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like he's had some good finishing around the rim for Louisville. Pretty handy in transition, looks like too. Big dunk.
Yeah, so no mid-range game. Everyone's kind of looking for that spot up mid-range. I don't think you're going to get a guard at 6'7" that's can't at least shoot some mid-range. Yeah.
Physically looks pretty good. Like looks
solid.
Yeah, solid. Obviously doesn't look like he has that man's body yet. He looks sort of quite low center of gravity too for 6'7" as well. So that sort of
good sideways movement.
Yeah.
But again, his whole game's around getting to the rim, which he won't be able to do at 200 in the NBA, I don't think.
Yeah, it's going to make it difficult. I mean, I'll give him a couple of years of development. Stepped into a mid-range there, looked all right. But I think, him and McDowell White are probably the most ready. I don't think Matermaker's really ready. It might be a little bit early for him, but that's only physically. I mean, skills wise, they all look pretty good, like they're ready to go.
Yeah, I think they're just because Thon got drafted out of high school as well. He didn't go to college, so
Yeah.
I think they're maybe looking for that gamble to see if it works again. In terms of picking out someone who can hang around the first team for a year and potentially get some garbage minutes and then put on 10 kilos and is quite skillful in that respect. Because, everywhere we go, we seem to be seeing longer and longer guards that can shoot over. I think it's the Durant factor, is that he's impossible to guard if you've not got a 7-foot center.
Yeah. Guys that can switch out onto the perimeter and, rather than sort of cooking centers off the dribble, like you're able to sort of physically abuse them.
Well, he just abused George Hill the whole Cleveland, the first two games. George Hill's 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". I mean, good long reach, but Durant just shoots over the top. I think he was 9 from 11 game 2. It's just abusing the system. I think they're looking for that, like a Thon Maker, like a Kevin Durant. That's what someone's looking for, is the next Kevin Durant. Now we'll go to prospects that haven't declared but are working out with teams.
Yep.
I think we'll go to the NCAA Player of the Year, Western Conference.
Yep, Jock Landale.
Yep. Traditional old school center. Aussie, 6'11". Big dude.
Yeah.
Looks like he's not too lanky as well. Looks like he's got a bit of size to him. He's 255.
Yeah, 6'11", 255. 21 points a game for St Mary's. It's not too bad. That's
he bullies his way in the rim.
Aussie connection as well, with Paddy Mills coming from St Mary's and Della Vedova coming out of St Mary's as well.
He's the first Aussie to win the accolade since Delhi.
Wow.
So I think Delhi won the same NCAA Western Player Conference Man of the Year. 21 points, 10 rebounds a game. That's a good old traditional center.
And I think the Lakers are probably in for a center as well. I don't know about Utah with the Favors situation there. And Gobert, obviously learning under Gobert would be good for him to get some experience under Gobert and sort of learn a traditional center's trade. The Lakers, though, is probably a good fit for him, with Brook Lopez being pretty much their only sort of starting center, and then Larry Nance leaving.
I'd probably see him more of as a pick and dump. If he doesn't get a niggle this week, I think he'll go back to college.
Yeah,
I think he's got another 2 years to finish on his degree.
Yep.
So,
and he worked out with Sacramento as well.
Oh. They got picks galore. I mean, Philly's got 6 picks in this draft. They're not going to take them. They're going to trade them for something.
Yeah.
I reckon they'll trade up.
They got a lot of picks.
Yeah, 6 picks. This is what the process does. It gives you picks.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting to see if anyone else sort of wants those picks. Obviously, Sacramento's got 36 in the second round. That looks like it's about it. In the first round, they got the number 2 pick. Obviously, they're not going to
go for him. Look, my best bet, if he does get picked up, it'll be by the Lakers. But I think he'll probably end up going back to college and not declaring. Put on another 10, 20 pounds.
Yeah.
Craft his skill a bit more. Another good year in the NCAA tournament, and he'll be ready to go next year. I think this year is it's a chock full of centers.
Yeah.
In terms of draft, and so it's not a good year for a center to be picked at second round. I think it's the year of shooting guards.
Yeah,
for second round picks.
There's not really a market for centers.
There's not really a market for point guards at the moment as well.
Yeah. Shot 64%. That's not too bad for a big man.
Yeah. It's all around the rim.
Yeah.
But active rebounder.
Yeah. That's always handy. I mean, for a young guy coming out of college, it's always handy to be good on the boards going into the NBA. Obviously, you got to work on your strength and your conditioning. Being able to play in the NBA is different to playing in college, but having good sort of rebound numbers and the ability to finish is always a good sort of staple, a good place to start going into the NBA. You don't want to have to teach finishing and positioning and stuff like that. You'd rather have your guy whether it be good or sort of not as great, you'd rather have at least sort of a stable base there than having to teach a young guy those sorts of fundamentals.
Yeah.
Xavier Cooks as well.
Xavier Cooks, we were watching highlights of him just before we started this podcast. He doesn't look athletic enough for my mind just yet.
Nah, not quite. 6'8".
Quite skilled for a big man. More of a power forward or a small forward, but he's only 185 pounds.
Yeah, he needs to put on a little bit of beef.
Very undersized, very slow. Terrific ball handling skills though. Good scorer. 17 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. That's point guard territory. Numbers. They are good numbers. But I just think that next level step up in terms of athleticism.
Yeah, physically he just looks like he needs to put on maybe 20 pounds of pure muscle.
Get quicker in transition. I think the standard now is Ben Simmons in terms of how fast a big man can transition in defense, and it looked like he would be struggling with most of the speed of the NBA. But look, it's one of those things. It's his skill level's there. It's just the physicality aspect. So a year potentially being pumped into the G League, could do him really well.
Or one of those low teams with nothing to lose. A Sacramento,
like a tanking Dallas or something.
Yeah, a Sacramento type team, or Atlanta Hawks or someone like that. A team with absolutely zero to play for, where you can develop. Like, it doesn't matter. You're not going for anything. You can just throw your talent in there to see how they go, type of thing. Brooklyn or something like that. But he looks like he's got some good skills and some good length as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he does stay on in college or university for one more year.
The only one I could really see declaring outside of the three they already have is Jock Landale.
Yeah.
Physically probably ready. Could do with more time in college and putting on a bit more weight, but physically and skillfully quite ready. Good point scorer, good around the rim, and a traditional center in a league where centers seem to be falling out of favor. The only problem is it's a bit crowded in the old draft this year.
Yeah.
Next one is Emmett Nah. He's with Jock Landale at St. Mary's.
Yep.
For my mind, just too undersized. 6'1", quite heavy for a 6'1" as well. Almost 200 pounds.
Yeah. It's not bad. I mean,
stocky.
Yeah, stocky can be good. It can be good as a point guard to have a little bit of beef on you to start with, especially if you're undersized. But I mean, in the speed department, that's always gonna, it's always gonna put you at a disadvantage if you are lacking sort of foot speed going into the NBA.
But you compare him with like a McDowell White, and you just don't see him really getting into this draft with anyone. I think he might need a couple more years. I think he'll probably end up in Europe or back in Australia.
Yeah.
And not playing in the NBA. The NBA is moving away from the small point guard. You really need to be 6'4" and built like a pretty much tank.
Yeah, or you need some sort of skill, like
amazing skill base,
like amazing shot like Steph Curry, or he even looks 7.9 assists per game. I'd think a lot of those were to Landale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So maybe those numbers are a little bit inflated because of that. The two-man sort of big man, small point guard seems to be sort of going away from that kind of game. Like the NBA seems to be moving away from traditional pick and roll with a big guy and more to versatile players that can do every different aspect at an instant. Like, you just need to be able to drop all your tools and run a specific set. Otherwise, you can't score quick enough. It seems to be the way the league's going.
Oh, it's just, it was funny when I think one of the reporters asked LeBron, are you sick of playing Golden State? And is the public sick of watching you two in the finals every year? And he said, no. It's other teams have got to get better.
Yeah.
And I don't think that the best player in the league and three of the best shooters in the league, everyone's looking to emulate one or the other. I think we've seen what the flaw with Cleveland is. I think we've seen why Golden State is so great. Even Houston, even Philly, is the ability to knock down shots.
Yeah.
And you see why the other teams, that are tanking and their skill set, and they're just not able to do it.
Mm.
They play a very much traditional isolated game and hope that they fall.
Yeah.
You look at OKC and how they fell against the Jazz.
But the Jazz, the Jazz have a pretty well balanced roster too. I mean, you saw sort of against Houston where they came up against a team that left Joe Ingles open for one game and then went, all right, we won't leave him open. And then suddenly he goes from scoring 27 in that game to doing pretty much nothing for the rest of that series. I mean, if you look at the way the league is sort of going, it's more balanced rosters and team-based schemes are starting to really overpower that singular player. I think LeBron James is probably the last real singular player that can carry a franchise and have it built around him. Like you look at Embiid and Simmons.
Yeah, it's a duo, and they've got a fantastic base around them. You look at Antetokounmpo, and that was an experiment that isn't really working. He hasn't got the backup plays around him. LeBron has no one. And he still gets you to a final. It's you could argue that Kevin Love's 0.7 of a player, but he really has no one. And then you look at a team like Houston, or they've got players. It's a 3-man team. You need to have a core of 3, and if you can do that, you're building something. And the rest of the teams just don't have that firepower.
Well, I think a lot of coaches kind of get stuck between building your core of those 3 players and then being able to blend them and have a system built around them to make it all work. And it seems that, with Golden State, they found a perfect sort of collection of players and good coaching as well. Because, they changed their coach and suddenly they went to the top, like right to the top.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like it was almost the same roster and they changed their coach and suddenly you could see different players doing different things. Like Thompson's mid-range started to improve. He started to get a lot better at handling the ball. Steph Curry's chemistry with Bogut started to sort of really, if you were moving guys away from Bogut, he could roll to the rim free and you could hit him for lobs all the time. I think Houston's kind of gone a little bit too far into that. I mean, Harden and LeBron James are sort of similar players. Obviously, LeBron's more of a forward than he is a guard, and Harden's more of a guard than he is a forward. But they both sort of play a sort of similar style. But that roster, the difference in rosters is just so stark that it's like 4 trash cans and LeBron James basically.
Yeah.
Whereas Houston have some pretty good pieces there. I think it's going to balance out. Like after this Golden State team goes to the peak and then comes back down, I think that the league going to balance.
Once LeBron retires and this Golden State runs its course,
about 5 or 6 years until it starts to go back down, I reckon, or 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years before you start getting guys potentially lured away with big sums of cash.
Yeah,
like a Clay.
Yeah.
And then, they've knocked off picks. They won't have picks for years, and then they go through that rebuilding phase. You really have to look at teams like Philly or Boston, which have the young talent to get up and into their faces. But they're doing that with, strong point guards, tall shooting guards, and no traditional centers, realistically.
Yeah. I look at that, and to me, even watching Golden State do it feels really gimmicky. Like, even watching Durant play center, it's like he's not a center.
No, he's not a center.
It kind of works because of how good the team is, but at the same time, it feels like it's papering over the fact that that's a bit of a gimmick at the same time. Like, they're so good that they can get away with it.
Yeah.
Whereas it feels to me like it's not sustainable. Like, maybe in 5 or 6 years, when we get over that crest, we're going to sort of see more balanced basketball again, where a
traditional center comes into it,
1-5 pick and roll, and having wings that can knock down shots off of drives, basically. So I think it'll be interesting. Like some of these guys coming in now, like Jock Landale as a center, and even Matur Maker playing as a forward. They've got 5 or 6 years to develop if they can sort of hang around in the NBA somewhere in the system. If they can hang around, I think they've got a window where the NBA might return back to some sort of normalcy.
Yeah.
In, big man and point guards who run action for the entire team. But, we'll have to see. The other guy is Joe Lawal Aquil Jr. from Baylor. And he's worked out for the Lakers, the Hawks, and possibly working out for the Spurs coming up. So
Yeah, bring up some highlights. Let's see what it is. Again, he's that kind of lanky. He is amazing on his shock blocking ability is pretty phenomenal and quick for a big guy too.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Thon Maker. Very
much the Thonotron style.
He looks like he's got a bit more, sort of a bit more thickness to his frame. A little less limmy and more sort of like weight torso and bigger legs. That block was pretty big.
That one.
That was good. A couple of good chase
Huge
down
reach.
blocks.
Good shooter as well.
Yeah, decent shooter.
33% from the 3-point.
Made over 80% of his looks at the rim. That's not too bad. That's another part too of the NBA that's starting to infiltrate a little bit with centers who can shoot, space the floor and shoot. Like we saw with Baines, hitting that corner three was pretty important for the Celtics. I think you'll find these young guys will start developing a shot, and then once they hit the NBA, they'll have to work on their post moves, where it used to be the other way around.
They can post up, effectively come into the NBA. And that's why I think Jock Landau, he's the traditional center.
Yeah.
Doesn't take a shot from 3-point land, but, can post up and attack the rim.
And he said himself that, he's sort of watched Bogut and sort of modeled his game after Bogut. And I think if anyone, if any center is starting to develop these days, I would look for, being able to distribute is one part of your game you'll need to work on.
It's in a space, in the spaced environment that the NBA is in these days. It's about knocking down threes.
Yeah.
It's not about attacking the rim anymore. Those guys are kind of getting few and fast between. It's about spacing the floor and getting to the open man and hitting threes. It's the lack of single-mindedness in a center, because most centers are pretty single-minded. When they're going for the rim, if they're posting up, if they're backing down, they're usually going to put around for a baby hook or try and dunk. It's the ability to kick out, to look, and to use that play as an assist factory, because that's what you should really become in this modern age, is an assist factory. More so than even a traditional point guard, because if you're able to do that and guys are able to get around or even be screened on the arc, then you're going to be able to get guys free to knock down shots.
Yeah.
And that's what Tristan Thompson does quite well for Cleveland. He's able to post up, back the guy down, and then kick it out to someone and screen them at the same time to give someone an open look.
Well, you saw a lot of that in game 2 with Curry, where where LeBron James will handle the ball out at half court and drive and kick. If that doesn't happen Curry drives and that's not happening, like if he's blocked sort of at the rim and he doesn't have a finish on, he's worked out that he can dump the ball off and get to another spot almost straight away, and he's got an open shot.
Yeah.
And that's one of the big things that if you don't have a shot, like you won't even be thinking that. It's like a next level thing where LeBron James is not going to do that. He's too big and too strong. I mean, his handoffs as he drives are, I'm giving it to you, you've got to shoot.
Yeah.
He's not going to run to another spot. I mean, they could swing the ball left or right, but I wonder if, as a guard coming in, like some of the guards that we've got coming in, whether there's some next level stuff that isn't about shooting. I mean, defense is a next level type of thing where it's not a metered attribute where you can look at it and go, oh, look at on paper, he's a great defender. You've got to watch
love
this
to do
guy.
that though. They like to look at the statistics and break down to everything to its nth degree. I think you'll find that your defenders are taller.
Yeah.
And that's why we want taller point guards. That's why 6'1" is extremely undersized.
Yeah.
You want 6'6" at least as a point guard these days. You want 7-foot wings. You want to be able to dump a three over, your 6'5" point guard or your 6'5" shooting guard.
Yep.
And that's why these guys like Matua Maker or Thon Maker, who probably wouldn't have made the NBA 10 years ago, are getting look-ins because they're trying to emulate the Durant factor.
Yeah.
From our perspective, from these guys that come in the drafts, there's nothing in there that says that they're standout. I think that, they're probably second round picks. But for me, the most exciting part of this year is looking at Jonah Bolden, who is, has the same stats as the Greek freak, Antetokounmpo. In terms of height and reach. Had a good season at Maccabi, didn't have a great season at Maccabi. I think he was averaging around 8 points a game for a power forward. But this while we have a huge presence this time, I can only really see McDowell White or Matua getting drafted.
Maybe Deng Adele, but
I don't think so. He might get a summer league deal. I don't think he'll get I don't think he'll get drafted.
I kind of look at his game and just see the multitudes of American talent, and just sort of look at it and go, well, you could pick up any American, basically. Any American college guy is going to have the same sort of set of skills. And you look at McDowell White, defensively looks like there's something there. Like that's unique.
Is it me or is the league embracing the kind of the international?
Yeah.
Is it Brett Brown calls these United Nations. That's it. That's his 5 pick where he's Embiid, Simmons, Ilyasova, Bellinelli, and Redick. 5 nations. Yeah. It seems to me that the first round is really the American talent.
Yeah.
And then they're looking for potentially a gimmick in the second round. And I think Thon Maker was that gimmick. Just you look at his skill set first year and you think probably not ready for NBA. Comes in second year, has a relatively okay season, but then shows what he's truly made of in the playoffs.
Yeah. I wonder how much they gimmick factor, quote unquote, I'm doing air quotes, or it's strategic. Like player acquisitions have gotten more and more strategic over the years, and
a strategy is also selling seats. A strategy is also selling jerseys. That's a strategy. Yes, Ben Simmons is a fantastic player, but he puts more bums on seats than anyone. He's more hyped. He sells more jerseys. He's got more international reach. Is it the fact? Is this why we're seeing 7 Aussies potentially declaring for this draft, where before we would have seen 1 every 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, I wonder. I don't know how structurally the way teams can tank and accumulate picks as well is part of it. Like I mean, if you've got 3 picks, you can use your 2 and then sort of take a gamble on that extra pick. You know what I mean? Rather than, acquiring players that you think are going to fit your organization. Because, I mean, there's 60 spots. And
60 players don't retire a year, I can tell you that.
Yeah, there's probably 400, I reckon.
360 NBA players or something like 380.
Well, eligible college players that might get drafted. Probably between 400 and 1,000 people trying out for these spots. So it's when you look at it, out of a country of what are they, 300 million?
360 million.
It looks huge, but in the scope of the NBA, it really doesn't feel that big. Like 1,000 people trying out for 60 spots kind of feels big to me, but at the same time, when you look at some of the decisions they make, some of the way they structure their organizations, they hoard picks, they gamble on different things, they sell different players, they dump contracts. How a player kind of gets to this spot where they can be just discarded and waved away like a piece of trash. Like it kind of makes you think about really 1,000 people into 60s, not that, as a business, it's not that many people.
No. But I mean that
a one in 1,000 people becoming a Ben Simmons or becoming a Westbrook or Curry or Klay Thompson or some sort of star.
That's the top 10 picks. So what's the point of the bottom 30? Are we picking up fringe players? Are we having a good G League team? There's some more G League teams coming in this year. So that's why Brooklyn potentially is looking. They're bringing a G League team. So, that's obviously wanting to build their G League team too, because there's some, prestige in having a G League team and getting players up through the G League as well. But are we looking at gimmicks or are we actually looking at players of depth?
Yeah, I think they border on they go on the other side of the talent to gimmick. I just don't think that it's that gimmicky. I mean, they've got a pretty strong marketing arm as it is. Nationalistic type of American marketing strategy. But more and more internationals in the league is great. different styles, different types of people, more coverage around the world is great as well for the franchises.
It's building a brand, yeah.
Possibly Luka Doncic being
the number one pick. If Memphis,
it's huge. I was watching some highlights. He's just killing it. He's only
phenomenal.
18.
I know. And he's crazy.
Directing these guys, these men around, like, oi, in the corner, you. Like, I'm like, wow, like, that's the type of talent you need in the NBA. So it'll be interesting to see who goes first. I would be stoked if we got 1 or even 2 drafted in the second round.
Yeah.
And maybe even 1 more sort of if they pick up after the draft itself.
I think Jock Landau might get. See, the problem is if he's not really feeling it and doesn't declare, he'll go back to college.
Yeah, which is
the only one that can be picked up in the summer league is probably Deng Adel.
Yeah.
For a 2-week summer league contract. I think it's in Vegas this year. And then
2-way deal. Yeah.
A 2-way deal. I think. Yeah. 2 weeks. It's I don't know how many games they play, or a preseason training, because they like to get a few different guys for these guys to guard, so they'll get a preseason training contract, and that may lead to a G League role. That's the really only way to go from there. But for me, Maturmaker and McDowell White is our best bets.
It's exciting though.
Yeah,
more and more players. It's going to be great. I think
we're going to have so many people to talk about next season.
Yeah, which is good. It's good for our business for sure.
Definitely. All right, guys. Now I think we'll wrap that up. You can find us again on Twitter.
Yep.
Oz NBA Takeover, SoundCloud. Listen to us. We've got all our episodes up on SoundCloud as well as iTunes, Podcast Addict, and YouTube. If you're at work and you want to have something to listen to in the background, you can stream all our videos on YouTube as well. And we've got a pretty funny one up at the moment of us watching LeBron kill... disembowel
the Raptors. All right, guys.
All right. Peace out, everyone. See ya.
See ya.